All right, hello everyone. Time for Soccer Talk. I'm Bo Williams.
And I'm Greg Rocool. Bo, how are you doing today?
Doing okay. I was down at practice earlier today for
Oh,
One
really?
Knox. We're getting ready, as we've been telling you, we're going to be broadcasting the game on the 29th. We have
That's
some
right.
promos. I see why they practice so early in the morning. Even then, like at 10 o'clock, 9:30 in the morning, melting out there. But the guys had a run through today. We're able to get out before the bulk of the heat set in today.
Man, yes. As someone, who just came back from Bonnaroo, we are truly in the dog days of summer.
Today's the first day of summer, though, right?
Exactly. Seek shelter early and often. And yes, I imagine, especially, I believe they were practicing on some turf fields as well, which is also a little bit more physically
he
taxing.
likes to come right back at you. Yeah, exactly. So anyhow, guys getting ready, hoping to bounce back. Obviously, coming back after that trip out west to Colorado didn't quite go the way they had planned.
Indeed, a tough loss, their second loss in the last 3 games without their captain, Jordan Skelton, there organizing at the back, but really was a tough one for them to take on the chin there in Windsor, Colorado out there. Let's take a look at this opening goal for Northern Colorado. Just less than about 75 seconds in, they concede a set-piece goal here, and we've heard it so many times from Mark McKeever this year, is that they've just had a little bit of an issue with really getting out of the blocks quickly and been able to establish themselves in a game. And, when you do that enough times, you're going to find yourself behind early.
Yeah, and in this case they did. As you mentioned, it was like 73, 75 seconds. As a matter of fact, and kudos to you, Greg, I'll give you some credit here. You did a little research on this one. As far as earliest goal conceded in One Knox pro history, 73 seconds you see there. But they also conceded a second-minute goal against Northern Colorado back on May 11th. So that came in like 120 seconds. So there's something about this Northern Colorado side that seems to strike first. But like you were saying, yeah, I mean, we've seen this has kind of been an issue coming out of the blocks. Coach has made some comments about that as well, and obviously it really bit him this time.
Exactly. I imagine making those long trips out there can be difficult. So, I mean, I'm sure there's an energy, and we talk about altitude when you're talking about Colorado. But yes, to concede at that early, and then a really, I don't know, not even a particularly challenging, delivery, one that you're always going to expect into that kind of penalty spot area right there. It really, you would expect a team that has been so good for most of its history on kind of set piece organization to deal with that.
Especially that early. Everybody should still be, fresh. You're coming in there,
right,
everybody's marking, everything's tight. But in that case, though, it didn't quite work One Knox's way. Now, they were able to get back on the board, but it came late in this game, that's for sure.
Exactly. Made a couple of offensive substitutions late in the game. The leading goal scorer, Kempis Tila, came on and was able to make some stuff happen, I believe, in the 88th minute. Here we see a little bit of combination with Angelo Kelly, and as Kempis is entering the box, gets pulled down by one of those Northern Colorado defenders, and Knoxville has a lifeline back into this game.
Yeah, and this is a great opportunity, and again, it came in the 88th minute, and kind of sit back and watch. I always wonder who's got more pressure on this. Is it the goalie, or is it the person taking the kick? Because obviously you're expected to make it. The goalie's not expected to save it. But it kind of depends on who you ask, I think, is who they say has the most pressure. But in this case, good stuff there by Tequila putting it in the back of the net.
Exactly. He really has hit the ground running so far in pretty limited action in League One so far. I'm sure this Colorado keeper might feel that they could have gotten to that one, had one hand on it, but ultimately unable to stop that one. And yes, in my opinion, I would say Eileen more pressure on the
on the keeper?
On the penalty taker.
Yeah, I think so.
Especially in a late game situation like that, when some potentially the difference between no points or a result is on the line.
In this one, you talk about pressure. 1-1. This one, not only coming down to the wire, and then some. We had to get into some extra time before Northern Colorado had that last dagger, I guess, in this game and found the back of the net.
Exactly. One last corner kick coming late in this match with 6 minutes of extra time. This one coming about at the end of that 5th minute here. One to the back post. Just a great downward header into that back post by David Garcia to secure all 3 points for Northern Colorado. And, we talk about Mark McKeever as someone been a little bit dissatisfied with the start here,
You don't want that to slip away.
Exactly.
At the last minute, yeah.
Something even more aggravating is to, have a result and let that get away from you in the dying instances of this match, especially on another set piece like we were saying.
Well, it's one thing to come back, say, from just up the street in Lexington or something. You're coming all the way back from Colorado, and you got to let that one stir for a little bit. You got to be thinking about that. But, the guys are going to get a chance to bounce back coming up this weekend and turn things around. And that's one thing we've seen with this team. I mean, it does, if they have a bad outing, we've seen a lot of times they're able to bounce back, try to regroup, and get things done. The good thing is after this loss, as hard as that one may have stung a little bit, they're going to get to come home now and play in front of the home fans.
Exactly. This team, yes, has shown the ability to, have that short memory and to regroup in quick fashion.
What is it? The goldfish.
That's right. Ted Lasso, be a goldfish. And so, yes, a tough trip back from Northern Colorado, but now they get to settle in for really a big stretch of critical home games leading into that late summer, because as we've talked about before, so with them sharing the stadium with the University of Tennessee women's team, that season is going to get underway for the ladies in end of late August. So you're going to see the bulk of that home schedule coming in these next 2 months through June and July, and then you're going to have to finish out the season on a decent bit of road trip. So it's going to be so critical to get these points here in the next coming weeks and months.
All the more reason why we got to pack the stadium, get behind the team. Before we move on, though, looking into next week, I know you've pulled up some stuff here, our history with Northern Colorado, if we want to put that up there. Last week we were talking about how we've dominated Lexington. Had our hands full with Northern Colorado, that's for sure.
Exactly. This is another team that is another expansion team. I think the Leaf came in the year before One Knoxville came into League One last season. And yes, in their 5 matchups so far in USL League One and in the Jägermeister Cup, it has truly been all Northern Colorado, including 2 pretty lopsided losses, that 4-2 coming home to last season, and then the worst loss in One Knox history coming in the Jägermeister Cup earlier this season.
But that's how it is in sports, though. There's always that team that you dominate, and then there's always that team that always just, for some reason, doesn't matter how their season's going, it just kind of gives you fits a little bit, and that's kind of how Northern Colorado's been in this early phase, as far as this early history, as far as One Knox is considered. But again, they'll be meeting many, many more times, so we'll see if we can't get that one turned around, that's for sure.
Exactly. I was looking at a couple of other statistics. We've now had about 14 games in all competitions, but extrapolating, excluding some Open Cup games, which, can have very rotated squads or different levels of competition. We talked about the strong start that this team was able to have. And while the results haven't recently, come as thick and fast in recent games, there hasn't been a huge discrepancy in, the amount of goals scored. They scored 7 goals through their first 6 games, in the Cup and in league play. And in their past 6 games, they also have 7 games conceded. But I think the big thing that really caught my eye was that through the first 6 games of the season, they had 29 shots through all those games. Right. And in the last 6 games, they've had 21. So, it may not sound like a huge difference, but you're going from about almost 5 shots per game to really around 3.5 shots per game. So it really seems like they haven't been able to, fashion those chances into the final half. And also wanted to take a look at one of the key players, or some of the key players for One Knox has been, we talked about how Kempis Tequila has really been able to hit the ground running in League One since coming over from Luxembourg as our leading scorer. You'll see he's leading all scorers with 4 goals in pretty limited minutes too. Only about 400 minutes. Your Angelo Kellys and your Sean Lewis's in goals. I've played basically every minute. About about 720 minutes of league play so far. So in only 400 minutes, he's got about 4 goals. So almost not quite a goal per 90 minute, but a really nice start to Kempis Tequila's career. And I think what is really going to be the key going forward for this team, Innocent Nshuti, who we've talked about a lot, he has only played about 270 minutes of action for this team in League One play. So you're talking about basically 3 full 90s. It hasn't all been full 90s, but if we're talking about 3 full 90s of play, he's had 10 shots in those 270
getting
minutes.
Those chances.
Exactly.
And with not as much time, which is great. Just think when he's going to get a little bit more time out there and what he's going to be able to do, hopefully, fingers crossed, what he'll be able to produce.
Exactly. For him single-handedly to get, these 3 shots per game on himself, or per 90 on average so far. I think that really bodes well for once they're going to be able to fully integrate him into this attack. He's been in and out of the squad, flying overseas to represent Rwanda in World Cup qualifying. So I think if they're able to really if we see a Kempis Tequila and Innocent and Shooty partnership kind of blossom up in that front two,
Could be dangerous for the other team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
With the experience they've got behind them. We've talked about Angelo Kelly. We've had Callum Johnson on.
Yeah.
Those really strong midfield partnership there. If they can just get that front two firing, and with a couple of interesting pieces off the bench, like a Kingsford Ajay, a Rudy Castro he's shown he can really try some stuff, a little bit of flair that they don't always have in the squad.
And don't forget those runs coming from the back.
Exactly.
Everything's timed right. If those guys are there to be on the receiving end of something, it could really be interesting to watch here as we get ready to turn the corner and head down the stretch. That is for sure for One Knox. And like you said, with a lot of games, we got a lot of games coming up at home, but that's going to shift once UT starts playing. So it's going to be even more critical that they kind of get that gel going now.
Exactly. I guess
offensive end.
let me just show our upcoming schedule here. Like we said, this Saturday at Regal Soccer
It's like
Stadium.
rock and roll night or something like that, isn't it coming up?
That's right, rock and roll night. I think some kind of air guitar contest is afoot at halftime. So, I hope you guys are practicing out there. And then, like we were saying, next weekend at the end of the month, Saturday, June 29th, this will be a cup match against for Madison FC that you'll be able to watch right here on WATE TV, right on the broadcast. They're going to hit the road for a July 5th game against South Georgia Tormenta. And then, yes, a chance for a little bit of revenge against the bogey side that we've been saying, Northern Colorado. Another home game against Chattanooga, July 20th. And then a
couple of road games there as we're getting into late July and August.
Exactly. As late July and August starts to arrive, then you're going to start to see them hit the road a little bit. So it's going to be, yes, these next 4 to 6 games upcoming, most of those being at home is going to be so huge for this squad.
Yeah, but again, if we can finish how we started, I think they're going to be fine. And they're in a strong position right now, standings wise. Just got to keep maintaining, if you will, to make the playoffs, and it's a whole new season from there. So again, we'll kind of see how this one all plays out. Hey, we were talking about in Shooty just a moment ago when we played World Cup play. You always get questions about some of the players that come through here. One Knox has not been around that long.
That's right.
We're already seeing the rewards of what they're doing here. Some of the players going on doing some great things. Got one that's turning some heads now in MLS all of a sudden.
Exactly. We had some midweek MLS action last night, and former One Knox striker Steven Afrifa has really had his kind of breakout stretch in the last couple of matches here for Sporting Kansas City. This is a player who is a One Knox original, playing on that USL League 2 side back in 2022, playing all around the city, playing at Maryville College.
All the different high schools, that was really Catholic, Austin East,
that was really great to see. And yes, now he's really broken out for a Sporting Kansas City team that is really in dire need of some new attacking blood. 2 goals in his last 2 matches, 3 goal contributions in his last 5 appearances. And this was a really electric player for One Knox that we were able to see through his early career. There you see him second from the right there on that team lineup. And this is an absolutely really exciting player to watch. Great one-on-one ability. Really, when you watched him on some of those high school fields or some of those turf fields, just the technical ability that he was able to display when he was taking players in one-on-one or volleying it out of the air like you just saw here. You really just saw that this was a player who had some really exciting upside.
Yeah, and obviously something to get excited about, a guy to follow if you follow Major League Soccer. I don't know if you've got a team, but we always got a couple players that we always like to watch. This is a guy with connections here to Knoxville, and it also says just a lot because people sometimes so they go, okay, USL One, USL Championship. There's a lot of guys you're going to be seeing, you're going to hear from down the road coming through, whether it's from One Knox or some of the teams that we'll be playing against that you're going to see up at Major League Soccer someday. So it just goes to show the talent level, I guess is where I'm going with this, with USL One. And you see that from the investment that's being made by the team owners, the stadium that's going. We talked about Lexington last week.
Right.
Other teams with stadiums that are being built. Again, the investment that's going into this league because there's so much talent here. The competition, it's a lot. It's a lot of fun. It's good soccer to watch.
Exactly, and it just goes to show that it can really happen quickly for a young soccer player who just 2 seasons ago playing here in Knoxville. I also think back to even in the first 2 seasons of League One, when you did have a couple of MLS reserve sides playing in this league before they ended up starting MLS Next Pro. You got to see you had the chance to see a young Ricardo Pepi playing for a North Texas team in League One, and less than a year later he was breaking out in Major League Soccer, and then all of a sudden this is a $20 million player being sold to a German Bundesliga club and a regular contributor for the U.S. men's national team. So it just goes to show that a player you might be watching at a level, maybe some of the lower levels of American soccer, they can really climb that ladder quite quickly to the top levels of the game.
Well, it says a lot about USL and the talent they've been attracting at the one level and at the championship level. You watch some of those USL championship games. I mean, they are phenomenal. And these USL One games as well. So I think it's great. It says a lot for One Knox. It's great to have a player that started here or came through here and is now up at Major League Soccer and doing some wonderful things there. It just says a lot about the organization and what's going on here is what they're trying to build and the type of players they're trying to bring into here. Since we're talking about the league, I know you like to touch on expansion every once in a while, and I know some of these teams we're going to be talking about, they're finally starting to get a little bit of an identity now.
Exactly. We've had, another couple of teams reveal their crests, their branding.
So start ordering your T-shirts and whatnot now. If you collect you collect scarves or what have you.
Exactly. Get in on the ground floor, and before USL League One really kicks into high gear and is. Right now, it's looking good for 6 new expansion teams coming in next season. Cool. So, I believe last weekend we got a chance to see the new branding for FC Naples down in Florida, the first League One team in Florida since the departure of some of these MLS affiliates. We did have Inter Miami 2 in League One briefly, but pretty interesting badge for Naples. A little busy, a lot going on there. I think you can tell they wanted you can tell they wanted to incorporate a lot of design elements, but
do we want to do stripes? Do we want to do
Exactly, a little bit of Art Deco, but
there must be something with the A. I don't know the history of Naples, Florida. I don't know, but there must be something with the.
I believe
obscure A.
I saw the crest explainer, and they said that was a kind of homage to the trestles under a pier or a boardwalk.
Okay.
You kind of see those kind of kind of diagonal supports under that.
I'll take their word for it.
Exactly, but I like the Art Deco, the seashell shape, the white sand beaches. That's going to be a really exciting addition to League One, and we also had. Another team, Westchester, up in, we're going to have our first New York suburb in League One also reveal their branding. And like I said in the other one, like I said with FC Naples, they kind of had a lot of design elements going on. This one's a bit more straightforward.
Really traditional, I think,
Exactly, with the kind of eye-catching W here and really pulling the weight for this, but I think I'm enjoying this color palette. A lot of potential here, and this is a soccer hotbed. Speaking of the men's national team, if you look at where a lot of those players originate, so many of them are from that greater New York area or from New Jersey, and a ton of youth players in that area. And I think this is a team that is going to really be able to hit the ground running, in their own community, since there is. Kind of like what we saw with Knoxville to a certain extent. There's this whole huge base of youth players and young families who love the game. So I think this is going to be a really exciting and successful addition to League One.
Well, it's good for New York, too. I mean, I think New York, all the different boroughs and whatnot, and suburbs or whatever you want to call it, should all have their teams. It's kind of like London. You can't go 5 blocks without running into another stadium and another team. So I think it's great for New York. It's great for USL. It's good exposure to be up in that area, that is for sure. New York City, New York State, just a huge hotbed, like you were saying. I know growing up, it always seemed like the players were either from New York or St. Louis.
Absolutely,
those were
yes.
the 2 hotbeds
That's right.
when I was younger. So. And then also you've got some news, Santa Barbara, I know we were talking about stadium, and again, this is the investment going into USL One. We're seeing these franchises coming in, but also the stadium that's being built, and that's always a good sign.
Exactly. We've heard a lot about Santa Barbara over the last couple of years. This is a team that is led by Peter Moore, who's a former executive over at Liverpool Football Club. They just announced this week that they will be playing at the University of Santa Barbara's soccer stadium. Now, they were originally slated to play in their football stadium right on some beachfront property, while this one is not, we don't get the scenic palm beaches right in the background, but this is a soccer-specific stadium, 17,000 seats, no football lines, and it seems like we're finally going to be able to see this Santa Barbara club lift off after they were supposed to slated to join last year, wasn't able to make it happen, but by all indications thus far, this is going to be another huge addition to League One. And yes, we're going to have 2 new California teams next year between Santa Barbara and Antelope Valley.
A lot more travel, that is for sure, coming up for these teams. And of course, we're talking about a new stadium. I mean, don't forget, One Knox. When you see the stadium that's being built here,
that's right,
for a multi-use stadium, and you think about that and where it's going to host soccer as well as baseball. But all I keep thinking about is, you think about the old city and the whole area and the scruffs and the excitement they're going to have, and the fans that want to do the marches. You congregate downtown, start having that march coming through. I think it's going to be great coming up to the state. It's going to be a great atmosphere here in Knoxville.
Yes, I am totally in agreement. Yes, you can, doing a walk-in, doing a march, from the parking lot to the stadium can only go so far.
Right.
But
this is something you can take down the businesses and the bars and the restaurants and what have you, and the little stores, and I think it's just going to be great. I think you'll see even more people get involved as far as with the scruffs and whatnot, be a part of that.
Absolutely.
They do a lot for the community, that is for sure, just not going to the games. But I think you're going to see that group grow, and it's just going to be a great atmosphere.
Absolutely. And yes, with all this expansion, I wonder if they will be able to, they've talked about splitting into an Eastern-West conference, with at least 18 teams next year. I wonder if they will be able to do a 9-9.
Yeah.
But we have seen that, teams can join the expansion fray, even later than this point in the season. We didn't really get the official word on Knoxville until after the previous season was done. So they were...
Let me see what the owners say, because obviously it's, travel budgets and things like that. If they say, hey, listen, we need to figure something out here. Every other week we're flying out to the West Coast, or what have you. So we'll see how that comes about. But it's going to be for some exciting, and we'll see more teams, which I always like. And obviously more talent that'll be coming through, and just more opportunities. Just not for for foreign players, but obviously more opportunities for our homegrown U.S. players here for a chance to play at the next level.
Absolutely, yes. With so many new teams coming up, at all levels, it really is exciting to see some of these young players break through.
All right, hey, real quick before we go, Copa America. We talked, what was going on in Europe with the European Championships last time.
That's
Copa
right.
America now starts here. We're not going to do any brackets, just straight up. Who are you picking?
Well, the last time I just always remember before the 2022 or the 2018 World Cup, France drew the United States right before the tournament, and then they went on to win the World Cup. And I doubted France that time, and I'm not going to make the same mistake this time. Brazil just came off a 1-1 draw with the United States at Orlando, a really exciting game if you're able to catch that one. But I'm not going to make the same mistake. I really think that this Brazil team has what it takes. Some of the most exciting attackers in world football between, Vinny Jr. is really the best winger in the world. Rodrigo is his Real Madrid teammate. You got young Endrick coming through as well. And some really exciting midfield pieces like my boy Bruno Guimaraes, former Lyon player, now doing really well for Newcastle in the Premier League. But I don't know. I think, Brazil has had a bit of a hoodoo over the last, 4 or 5 major tournaments. But I think this is one that they could really take advantage of.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you need to watch out for Brazil. Argentina is always going to be up there. Any dark horses you're looking for here in this one? Can a Colombia or somebody maybe shock? They've been on a little bit of a run. Who else?
Exactly, like we saw against the United States. This is a team that can put a couple on you quite quickly from the attacking, some really great attackers in their own right, led by Luis Diaz from Liverpool.
What do you think about the United States? And I know, for me personally, it's just whoever shows up that day. We don't know, but any gut for you as far as how the U.S. might fare in this one?
I think the group stage is set up pretty well for the United States. They get to, kind of ease into the tournament by playing Bolivia and Panama for the first 2 group stage matches before they get that big clash with Uruguay on the final day of group play. So, the schedule does set up for them to, get their bearings. And I don't know. We always talk about how there's this expectation among fans that, to kind of play this more expansive, aggressive, free-flowing kind of style of play. But, as we've seen so many times in tournaments, you don't have to do that. You can be a very pragmatic side, a very risk-averse side when it comes to your setup and your tactics in a tournament. And that can pay real dividends for you. Yeah. And I think that is, for the most part, what Coach Greg Berhalter is trying to do with this team. So I think that they have every opportunity. I expect them to get out of the group. I think
that's the first thing. Just
that
get
should
out
be
of the group, right?
I think they would back themselves to play a knockout match, and then once you get into that quarterfinal area, you're probably going to play a Brazil or a Uruguay potentially, and then at that point, it could be a bit of a coin flip.
Yeah.
And we saw in that friendly with Brazil that they can go toe to toe. Just the way that they were able to,
Sure.
endure some of the high press that Brazil was putting on them. They were passing out of some of those just waves of pressure so deftly, with Tim Ream really organizing that back line so well. So if they're able to kind of trust themselves and play out of the back there, or and when the time is right, boot the ball upfield to avoid some risk, I think that they do have the chance to, go into a quarterfinal with a big chance to win. And yes, potentially make a semifinal.
So maybe the USA could be that team that kind of shakes things up a little bit. We'll have to wait and see. You mentioned Bolivia. I don't know why. I always sit there because I remember in my younger years, I want to say Marco Echeverri. I think he came from Bolivia. When DC United was like the kings of Major League Soccer in the
Right.
Ever since then, you don't hear about Bolivia. They're kind of one of those teams in South America that they were there for a while. And then it's kind of like Peru. Peru has their moments, and then they just kind of...
Indeed. Some of the, after Brazil and Argentina, it can be a little cyclical. But
Uruguay is always kind of there.
Absolutely.
They've been better recently, that's for sure. But teams like Peru, Bolivia, Venezuela's always been kind of a struggle. It's more of a baseball country anyhow. Soccer's finally kind of getting its footing there. I always like to see maybe Chile or somebody else to kind of make a little bit of a run just to kind of shake it up. But we'll see how it comes out. I think, I'm with you though. I think the guys that have always been there are going to be there.
That's
without
right.
Question. So we'll see what happens. Maybe a Mexico, maybe a U.S. can get in there and knock somebody off and really make this thing interesting down the stretch. We'll have to wait and see.
The summer of soccer, I can't wait to watch. The first game tonight, Argentina and Canada.
That's right, Argentina, Canada. Hey, thanks so much for joining in. We'll do this again next week, but we'll have a full recap for you of this coming up weekend's game for One Knox, and of course we'll be looking ahead to that game with Forward Madison next week.
All right, we'll see you then.
Yep.